Hello everybody, Proto Foxy here, coming back at you with another video as I'm like lining stuff up here. Not your typical review this go around. We're just gonna have some fun. This is a Combiner Wars appreciation video and kind of a pseudo review because I've had my hands on this for a while. He's been sitting in the backlog. I probably talked about Combiner Wars Cyclonus, but this is Power of the Primes Inferno. As we'll get them rotating. Got this a while ago because I didn't have hotspot and whatever. I mean, obviously you can see I've got a bunch of combiners over here because truth be told, I love Combiner Wars, and I'm putting this out here to show some appreciation about Combiner Wars and the Prime Wars Trilogy toy line. Now the show is a whole different bag of crap that we can complain about it another time, but the toy line was awesome. And I'm putting this out to combat the revisionist history that the Prime Wars Trilogy toy line, particularly Combiner Wars and by proxy Power of the Primes, were bad. And, I mean, like what you like. I mean, they're reviewing, we got the combiners and what they are now for Legacy. And, now Age of the Primes with in Studio Series. But I'm here to tell you and here to show you and everything like that, this whole thought process of Combiner Wars was bad, that's definitely not true. And especially going back to this era, for the Generations toy line, we really had it good. And while there were a couple of legit gripes, reuse of molds and what have you, in engineering, nobody back then in the 2015 to 2017, I want to say it was, or maybe it was 2018 or 19, whenever they started the War for Cybertron Trilogy toy line, part of Generations, nobody was complaining. Everybody enjoyed this line. Everybody had a lot of positive things to say. And I still feel that way, but now that we're getting combiner skeletons and this and that, and I feel like it's a very lazy way to engineer combiners, especially when we had this. I don't get it. Will I say Combiner Wars was perfect? No. There were certain things that could have been done better. And you will notice, and I've kind of gone into a couple of different groups online, you get people asking about like the knockoff versions. I do have on here now. These two are official, G2 Menacer and Leo Kaiser. Those are actually official. But in the back, the Devastator, and I've actually done a review on my channel of the Cool Become Brave Devastator. I also got within the same. I ended up spending the money to get these three. We also have the G2. Bruticus, and here is just a multicolored. I'm going to get these guys more in the background here like this. But that is more, because I couldn't get my hands on the standard colored Superion, but I went with the multicolored anyway because I prefer, and while it's not G2 colors, it's still just a wildly different colored take, so it fits in with the whole Generation 2 aesthetic, in my opinion. So he stands in for my G2 Superion. And it's most of my Generation stuff that's out now is actually more Generation 2 based. I am, I'm not upset because I do love this Devastator. I do love the G1 colors. And I'm glad I got it. And... but I should have, in hindsight, gone with, because the place I got these sets from actually had a Generation 2 color. They actually had both G2 colored versions of Devastator, yellow and the orange, and I should have went with one of those, just in hindsight. But I'm happy I had this. I love Devastator anyway. And so it works, and I've talked about that Devastator, and this is... Now, these are all the combiner class size, whatever you want to call it now. And the reason why I went with this Devastator, and I've explained it in my review video, but I just prefer this scale for my combiners. It works, this and that. But, I'm here to tell you, Combiner Wars was not bad. It never was bad. and this revisionist history, now that we got stuff in Legacy coming out where we're doing combiners, and we're actually, and again, feel how you will about it. When I got my Legacy Menacer together, I stated stuff in that review, and my disappointment in just the lazy engineering. Am I happy that I have that combiner? I mean, yeah, I suppose. But I will always prefer Combiner Wars. I love this line. But anyway, so we've got a bunch of stuff here. We're going to go ahead, as I'm talking about it, we're going to go ahead and get these guys combiner ready. Just to get them good to go. I got to remember how to do this mold in particular. The, and I'm staring at the toys right now. Duh. That's what I got to do. Pull it down, then pull that down, then flip that up. But we're just going to put these guys together and have fun with them. And I will talk about my thoughts on Inferno, because while I do have a Classics Inferno, a Generations Inferno, and a Generations Inferno now. I did like that, and I do like the idea of having a Combiner Inferno, and the fact that I did not have a Defensor. This fits in really well with what I'm going for, and yeah, it just works. For me, this just works. Trailbreaker, well, let's go ahead and get that, and hopefully this doesn't come across on camera, but if you can, there's a drum line marching in the background for some unknown reason, and hopefully I can talk over it and give you my thoughts on toys as opposed to hearing a ridiculous ass drum line. And actually, I won't go into my neighborhood complaints over here. I have my feelings on it. It's very agitating, and it's actually ignorant, and they don't notify the neighborhood that they are actually doing this. So literally, it's all of a sudden, hey, we're blocking traffic today because I'm by a busy intersection over here. And yeah, now you can't hear it, so I'm complaining over nothing. I think I have to do it this way. I actually have to kind of half transform this to get this in arm mode. But yeah, and then I didn't get the chance to bring it down, and I probably should have, but my Combiner Wars Optimus Prime, I don't have the, I forget what they call them, like Ultra Prime or whatever, the white repaint version. I don't have that. I have the original red one, which I actually enjoyed. A flaw aside, because he did have the flaw in his engineering that he was only able to hit a wide A stance. But as we're doing this and we're putting these guys together, and the thing is, again, no cheats here. Your robot mode, your separate limb combiners, and you can see I've got G1 cast Autobots here. Prowl, Mirage, Sunstreaker, and Trailbreaker. And I'm actually borrowing all but Trailbreaker from my son to do this, because he got these ones. I did not, because I already had Classics and Universe 2.0 versions of these guys that were on my Classics shelf, and that's just how I roll. I have certain versions of certain characters that I'm okay with just having. But even though now I'm reconsidering maybe trying to get these off of my son here, because again, I enjoyed Combiner Wars and they had some great toy designs. It was cool new updated takes of Generation 1 characters, which I can always appreciate, where we're not just strictly locked into nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. And I can appreciate that. And the one thing, I might have mentioned it in other reviews of different toys that were part of the War for Cybertron stuff. Some of that stuff was really good. But I had mentioned it in some of my reviews of those toys that characters that I, for whatever reason, wasn't able to get my hands on when it came to the Classics line, or the Classics line, or Classics 2.0, Classics 2.0, or Universe 2.0, Classics 08, whatever parts of the Chug line I actually missed. Whatever I couldn't get a hold of, I used to fill gaps, because I'm sure I've mentioned this in earlier review videos, that, and there we go, we got limbs together. We'll go ahead and get both these guys. Well, first we're going to do Inferno, because I haven't actually done a review on this guy yet. Really good looking fire engine. It's basically a redeco of Hotspot, which works. And then I got to remember how this works. Probably just like that. And we'll leave those. We'll take these off. We're taking off all the accoutrement. We'll get him into his robot mode first, and then we'll get him into combined mode. But I had mentioned in other review videos, when I was talking about stuff like War for Cybertron Siege, Earthrise, and what have you, that it's just G1 Redux for the sake of doing G1 again, because we had already had, reimagined and, frankly, for me, cool takes on some classic characters in, the Prime Wars trilogy stuff, Combiner Wars, Titans Return, and then Power of the Primes. Now, like I said, were these lines perfect? No, absolutely not. I loved them. I can objectively say that I thought that they were great overall, but, some of them were flawed. Yes, the criticism that, the reuse of the same few molds to get different characters. Yes, it's valid criticism. We have Inferno in his robot mode, and that looks really cool. Definitely a nice, neat little updated take on Inferno. Give him 2 guns. And of course, now we have more kind of throwback looks at Inferno, which again, cool, but I'm just over the whole G1 accuracy, G1 Redux for the sake of doing it. This is why I'm like, only when I'm jumping into stuff like Legacy, in Power of the not Power of the Primes, but Age of the Primes. Excuse me a second. In Age of the Primes, I'm getting newer characters, stuff that was missed, as we're going to go ahead and flip him over to get him ready for combined mode. Yeah, but stuff that was missed, and new characters and stuff more like, what do you call it? Like Unicron Trilogy stuff, or, there we go. So I got to remember how to do this here. Now we're getting prepped for combined mode. But, stuff like Unicron Trilogy and R8001 and stuff like that. Moving on from, realistically, just moving on from Generation 1. Because I feel like, for me, anyway, and feel free to disagree, and I understand opinions are opinions. Everybody's got them. Not everybody necessarily wants to hear about them. I get that, and I'm good with that, and I understand that. And, tis what it is. But for me, the Combiner Wars stuff, Power of the Primes, Prime Wars trilogy, as far as toy lines go, we're not going to go ahead and, I'm not going to go ahead and lump, the shows in, because the shows were just absolute trash, and I don't think we've had any good animation for Transformers probably since R8015, to be completely honest. But again, is what it is. Opinions are opinions. Everybody's entitled to them. Not everybody wants to hear them. And then this actually reminds me a whole hell of a lot of the torso for Guard City. I wish that they would do a redeco. Let me get this correct here. I wish they would do a redecoed version of the Protectobots to do a Guard City Combiner. Oh, it's got to slide over that. There we go. Like a Guard City Combiner. I think that would be cool. But yeah, torso ready. Boom. And then we'll just combine. We're just going to have some fun here. And by the way, I like the Hotspot Inferno and the oh god, I can't, Onslaught, and is on the Onslaught mold. I thought that was cool. And again, valid criticism stating that they just reuse molds. That is valid. I get it. I understand, and it's a fair point to make. But, you know, when you're doing something like this, Scramble City Combiners, you know, for play value and what have you, it's understandable. It really is. And oh my God, this actually turned out really cool. I am super, super pleased as we're getting like crotch shot in there. Let's move the camera up. I like that a lot. That's really cool. Yeah. Okay. I'm sold on that. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. Well, that... Oh! And then you can actually even buff him out a bit and have some cool looking stuff on his front. Let's see if those will store in the back, though. They can. Look at that. Okay. All right. Cool. No, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe they won't store on the back. But I could store them on the front and just make them look really, really aggressive with just some big... No, that blocks his face. That's silly. Let's maybe try it down. There we go. That looks cool. All right, we'll do that. So anyway, as I'm fiddling with this thing in front of the camera, and we're gonna arm him up, and then we'll fix the camera angle, and boom. That I think is awesome looking. He's big. He's beefy. He's tough. Let's get around about it. And by the way, again, Power of the Primes, Prime Wars Trilogy Inferno, definitely a must. And then to combine them. And, you know, yeah, it's a little loose in his hand, whatever. Let's see if it works better in the other hand. You know, yeah, right there is pretty good. But, you know, he has articulation, you know. Is he a bit wobbly? I mean, sure. Whatever. But, you know, we can figure out how to pose him. So they can pose, they can move, they aren't terribly, horribly, I mean, for combiners anyway. Are we going to stay? We going to stay? Yep, there we go. Look at that. I mean, they pose decently. The playability is there. You know, I like it. I like it a lot. I am a fan and always have been a fan, and I will be a defender for Prime Wars Trilogy stuff till I am in the ground. Because I love just the Prime Wars Trilogy toys. I thought they were great updated takes. This is something I look at when I go into collecting new lines. I've got G1 toys for days, right? And I love G1. Grew up on G1. I'm 45 years old. So I definitely grew up on this stuff. First Christmas I can remember, I got the original... And I probably mentioned this in review videos. I got the original G1 Optimus and Megatron. And Soundwave I ended up getting... I remember being in a mail order box because it was a mail order toy. But anyway. But I like new updated looks at toys and stuff like that. I have the originals. I've got the classics versions. This, that, and the other thing. Give me something new. You know, Legacy was great, and Legacy is great, and we're going to go ahead and get him into torso mode to swap parts here, because this is, again, the playability. You got Scramble City going on here, man. This is great stuff, and the fact that people bag on this now and just really kind of just tear it to shreds, because we all of a sudden got, you know, some figures that, you know, arguably look better, you know, more accurate to the source material, what have you. And that's fine. That's fair. I understand it. That's cool. But this is just, it was a unique take on this stuff. It gave you new ways to look at these characters. It gave you new play patterns to mess around with this stuff. It's like, why would we limit ourselves to just accuracy for accuracy's sake? You know what I mean? It's like, give us something new. Give me something new. That's how I look at things in my collection. I don't necessarily collect to be complete or to look for fucking... oh, God, I'm almost dropping F-bombs here. I drop F-bombs regularly on the podcast I'm on anyway. And I'll put links in the description below. You want an adult-oriented video game podcast? Go ahead and check out Gaming After Dark. I will put links in the... with your host, Noof Nukem, and then, of course, I yak about video games for a couple hours on Tuesday nights. But, you know, anyway, and definitely more adult-oriented. But, you know, and then We got the Galvatronus torso here, which was a cool little story beat in the comic books. But again, when it comes to this kind of stuff now, I look for new takes on things. I don't necessarily want and or need stuff to be completely accurate to the source material anymore. Is it cool? Yeah, but that's what we got Masterpiece for. That's what we have, different lines. And if that's your bag, that's cool. I'm not gonna shit on your riff when it comes to what you like in the toy line. You don't like this stuff, fine. I get it. It's cool. But let's not pretend for any moment in time here, or any stretch of the imagination, that this was a hated toy line, that this was, something that people frowned upon and complained about all the time. I mean, well, collectors complain about toys all the time. I mean, that's what collectors do. They bitch, moan, and complain. But let's not pretend for 1 second that this wasn't revered as a great updated take and especially with Generation 1 at the time. I mean, we did definitely get some new characters in there. We did, like Galvatronus here, which is cool. Boom. A Galvatron combiner whose combined mode is actually a version of Galvatron here. And that's awesome. Look at that. That's cool. I've actually done the Galvatron combiner before, I think, with some Decepticon stuff. And I do have some other Power of the Primes Decepticon figures that I can actually use as, limbs to do this if I so choose to. I may actually. I haven't decided yet. I think it would look good with Darkwind and Dreadwing, for arms, and then get maybe, whoever on the legs. Because I know I definitely have some extras laying around. But yeah, that's definitely cool. I like that a lot. But we're going to go ahead and get the Inferno combiner. I don't even know if they even gave him a name, but I'm just going to call him Guard City at this point. It just works for me. But at that point, or at this point in time, when we look at things, when I look at things, rather, I should say me, I want updated stuff. I want cool new takes on things. I don't want to revisit the same thing over and over and over again. That's maybe why, I only did, picking and choosing with the current generation stuff, and I more focus on getting, say, Unicron Trilogy stuff, and stuff that really got me back into collecting, so stuff like RID-01 and Unicron Trilogy and stuff like that. And why the new Transformers kid-oriented toy line, I forget what they call it here right now, it escapes me. Drop it in the comments section below if you can give me the name. But that line looks cool, even though it's more kid-oriented. It's simplified, this, that, and the other thing. It's cool, and I enjoy it, and I like it, and this and that. But I've yacked on for a while. This is more, instead of a traditional review video, this is an appreciation video of Combiner Wars, even though, yes, I am digging into my backlog, reviewing my Power of the Primes Inferno and his combined mode, and that's cool. That's staying like that. I think I'm going to end up getting these guys from, well, with the exception of Trailbreaker, because I already have them. I think I'm going to get these guys from my kid. He doesn't really display them anymore. He's got his other ones, so I think I may keep these, which is awful. It's awful to say. I'm taking my kid's toys, but he's also 18 now, and we definitely do some trades, so maybe he'll get something off of me in the interim. But anyway, I love this, and I loved Combiner Wars, and the fact that we've got, parts of the fan base now that are just shitting on Combiner Wars just to shit on it, to say that, oh, it was never good. Just in the same way that now everybody's kind of going out of their way to shit on Transformers Prime, saying it was never good. The show won Emmys. Okay? This stuff, this stuff was revered back then. If you don't like it, that's fine. I'm not going to shit on your riff for not liking something. That's cool. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. You got yours, I got mine. That's great. But let's not pretend for 1 minute that there were people secretly hiding in the background saying, oh, I genuinely hate this, but I'm just going to buy this and make this successful because this is all we got. That's definitely not the case. Why did Earthspark fall flat on its face? Because nobody was buying the toys and nobody watched the show. You know, I mean, give me a break, okay? Let's not pretend for a minute that this stuff wasn't revered, because people loved it back then. Is it flawless? No. Is it perfect? No. They have their flaws. Like certain things about them, like I love these designs. Like I love the Combiner Wars Menacer. That's probably my favorite version of Menacer, even over the original G1 toy, which I do have. I think I might even put it in the video somewhere. But that's my favorite version of Menacer. I love it. You know, I love Combiner Wars. The Prime Wars trilogy toy line as a whole was awesome. You know, the shows that were tied to it were trash, but the toy lines were great, and this was a great period of time. And it was a great period of time to be a Transformers fan and to get these toys, because and not only, and especially if you were an adult collector that had kids like I do. Because not only was it a cool thing to experience, you're getting new updated takes on stuff and making everybody a combiner. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool, seeing like Inferno become Guard City. You get an Optimus Prime combiner, this and that. You get a Galvatron combiner. That's cool. But what was also cool was sharing this with, my son, and sharing it with your kids, coming up with the different Scramble City combinations for this. This was very interchangeable, very playable. And the exclusives were awesome, because the G2 version of Bruticus, I think, was exclusive to an online store. G2 Menacer. And again, that's actually the Cool Become Brave knockoff version. That's not the original one. Or not the official one. That's the knockoff. But G2 Menacer, which this is a real G2 Menacer. I believe this was Big Bad Toy Store exclusive. This, I believe, was Hobby Link or Entertainment Earth exclusive. So you had really cool exclusives on top of that. It was a good time. Now we got Gen Selects, which is great. It's an official way to get it, because you get it through the Hasbro store. But this was just a good time to be a Transformers fan and a Transformers collector, and I'm not going to let anybody badmouth this. Again, revisionist history is a real son of a bitch when it comes to, this era in Transformers, whether it be, the Combiner Wars stuff or Transformers Prime, Align Continuity stuff, this and that. But it was a real good time to be a Transformers fan, and it was revered, it was held in high regard back then. I mean, Prime, like I said, won Emmys. It was a great show. Now, I mean, if you don't like it, great, cool. Understand that. Everybody's got their opinion, But don't go out of your way and pretend like, oh, this was universally reviled and it was only successful because people had nothing else to buy. Get the hell out of here, man. Not even for a minute. But anyway, I glazed on about Combiner Wars for about a half hour now. I loved it. I still love it. I think this is great. And the fact that I can still kind of come out in 2025, and I got this toy, I believe, last year, the Inferno one. The other guys I've had laying around since they were released, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that I can come back to this stuff in 2025 and still have a good time with it, swapping parts and everything like that, says a lot about the longevity of the line. And if you're on the fence of checking out Combiner Wars stuff, whether it be official or even the knockoffs coming from China, and I will say, and I said this in my Devastator review video many moons ago now, that the plastic quality on them is good. Your mileage may vary. Chinese KOs are still Chinese KOs, but these are on the level with Hasbro quality plastic and stuff like that. And just going out and appreciating the greatness that was that era here. And I just don't let anybody tell you for a second that this was trash, and it was always trash, and that people looked at it as trash because but it was only successful because it was the only thing we had to buy. That's bullshit. People loved this stuff back then, and I love it now. And again, if you don't like it, you don't like it, and that's cool. But for those of you on the fence, looking for alternatives to Combiner skeletons and stuff like that, maybe give this stuff a shot. It might be right up your alley. All that being said, I yacked on for a half hour now. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you did, shoot a subscribe my way. I greatly appreciate it. If you didn't like the video, if you don't like my views and how I feel about Combiner Wars and kind of calling it to the floor as far as people trying to tell you that this was objectively bad back then and nobody liked it, say so. Let's interact. Let's have a conversation. I will say unto you all this, though, and I will say this, too. if we are going to have a conversation about it, you disagree with my opinion, which I'm sure you probably will, keep it civil. All right? Because I always end my videos with this, and I stick to it wholeheartedly. You be kind to yourselves and your fellow human beings, because life is too short. Just play on, and I will see you in the next video.